Just waiting for it to connect. Connecting. And here we are. Good evening.
Hello.
How are
Oh,
you, Claire?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for asking me. I do apologise for my very casual appearance this evening. I'm
No, I'm
still,
very casual as well. I call this casual Sundays.
well, I'm actually packing. I'm moving house tomorrow,
Oh
so
wow.
I've been, yes, in packing hell all day. So
Oh,
this is
so
a
I
welcome
picked a
break.
great day to do this then.
No, it's a welcome break, honestly. I've just, goodness me, you think you don't have much stuff, and then when you actually start packing it, you realise just how much crap you amass in your house.
Oh wow. So are you not working tomorrow then, I take it?
No, I've got the week off. So
That's good.
it's the first time all year I've taken an entire week off. It's just been one of those crazy years for so many
Yeah,
reasons.
yeah, definitely.
And I've just struggled to take, because I haven't had a foreign holiday, which would force you to take the time off.
Yeah,
I've ended up just not taking an entire week off. So I said to my boss on Friday, I really am going to try and not check my email. So if he needs me,
yeah,
WhatsApp me. But apart from that, I'm just going to try and not check my emails, because as soon as you do, you get caught in a
yeah,
rabbit hole then, don't you? And
yeah.
you get
I mean,
sucked into things.
it's really important to sometimes just lock off
Yeah,
and just switch
exactly.
off. Um,
Exactly.
so Claire, there's some that obviously know you, and there's some here that don't. So some of the Sweat Club members don't actually read Women's Health.
Oh, shame
Um,
then.
yeah, it is indeed. So how I kind of wanted to start the discussion just by learning a bit about your journey and how you became the editor in chief of Women's Health.
So my background is actually newspapers. So I'm a trained news journalist. I did a graduate training scheme on a national newspaper in 1999, which is,
Okay.
showing my age. So I qualified as a journalist a very long time ago, and I stayed in national newspapers for about 7 years. And
Okay.
it was very exciting, and it was at a time when there was lots of money in newspapers, so they thought nothing of sending you here, there, and everywhere abroad to cover stories on the drop of a hat. So it was a thrilling experience, and I certainly went to countries that I probably would never have gone to if I
Okay.
hadn't been a newspaper, or certainly not when I was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
But it did end up affecting my mental health, and I've been very honest and open about my mental health challenges in the past. If anyone was to Google me and just put Claire Sanderson depression, they'd find my story. But
Okay.
it ended up really had a negative effect on my mental health, and I ended up having to go into hospital with
Oh,
severe depression and anxiety for
oh, wow.
7 weeks.
Okay.
And it was at that time when I realised that tabloid newspapers and the pressures that are put upon the staff, and some of the situations that you have to put yourself in, which you feel compromise your own personal ethics and sometimes even your safety, because they certainly didn't have the rules and regulations that are in place today, which have
Okay.
been imposed upon the newspapers in recent years. So it took its toll on my mental health. So I decided to jump ship to the relative serenity of magazines, and I think that was in 2007.
Okay.
So I worked at Grazia, which I'm sure
Okay. Yeah.
many people
Yeah.
on here will know, a magazine called Look, which was a weekly fashion magazine, sadly no longer with us. And I loved it, but my long held passion has always been health and fitness. And
Okay.
when I was working at Look, where I was the deputy editor, I used to say to my staff, one day I will edit Women's Health. It was
Yeah.
my dream to be the Women's Health editor. So I was employed first and foremost at Women's Health because of my long and proven track record in journalism and as an editor.
Yeah.
That said, I don't believe you could run a brand like Women's Health unless you are genuinely engaged in the subject matter,
Yeah.
because I feel you have to live and breathe the
Yeah.
brand, and I do, and all my staff do as well. We all have different areas of wellness that we're interested in. Some are, very dedicated runners. Others are really into yoga.
Yeah.
We all have our different things, and I'm probably the most dedicated out of the lot, to be honest, because
Yeah. I
I'm
mean,
a little
I
bit.
was interested because I wanted to know if like you was into health and fitness before you became the editor of Women's Health, or it was like a kind of byproduct of the job.
No, it's always been my absolute obsession. So I used to row competitively at university,
Oh,
and I've run marathons. I used to be a fairly accomplished triathlete. So I've always been very, very engaged in health and fitness. The reasons for me being engaged in it have changed. So
okay.
in my early 20s, I was competitive.
Yeah,
Then I fell down the route of doing it because I wanted to be slim, you know, and I was a cardio queen and running miles and miles and miles and all
yeah,
this. And then, but since I've realized the benefits it has on your mental health and how necessary it is for me
yeah,
to train almost daily. My reason for training now is predominantly my mental health.
yeah,
That said, I love being strong. I love being fit. I love the camaraderie of doing classes when we're allowed,
yeah,
you know, and I love the way it makes me look.
yeah,
In terms of looking strong, you know, I love that I've got guns. You know, that's
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah, yeah.
So, I'm in my 40s. I take HRT. You know, I'm at an age now that, you know, historically women at my age were sort of seen going off the cliff, you know, going down the other side. But you know, the messaging and the how society looks at women in their 40s now is very different, and I'm really proud to be strong, fit, and when I go to a class, I lift weights heavier than some of the blokes, and I
Yeah,
love
oh,
that.
that's good. So you see, you said you went through a bit of depression back in your earlier 20s. Was
Yes.
exercise something that was kind of prescribed to you?
No, it wasn't. Which because this was a long time ago, and what
Mm.
was prescribed to me was a lot of medication, you
Okay,
know.
yeah,
And no one ever, I don't believe anyone ever said to me that a way that you can improve your mental health more effectively than most medication is to move more.
yeah,
And also nutrition is key. You know, less
mm,
sugar. Sugar affects your
yeah, yeah,
mood. Drink. You know, I was in my 20s at an age when you know we drank loads. I don't drink very often now at
okay,
all. I can go months and not drink. So, and I've spoken to many psychiatrists and leading mental health doctors during my time at Women's Health, and now they are all very much aware that exercise and good nutrition is absolutely essential for good mental health.
yeah, yeah. So you see, with your kind of women's health, your readership now, do they all kind of do like a similar form of exercise? Do you promote a particular type of exercise, or is it kind of well-rounded?
It's well rounded, and there's this misconception about women's health that it's very much a fitness brand, hardcore
Mhm,
fitness brand, and it's not. It's a very holistic look at wellness. So
mhm,
we appreciate that our readership have a broad ability level. So we have women who are picking up women's health because they're just starting on their wellness journey and they need to be guided, and they
mhm.
need us to hold their hand. So we have to make sure that we have content in there that, but also we appreciate that we have readers that train 4 or 5 times a week. We've done research, so I know that our readers fall into three buckets:
Okay.
the sort of the beginners, and then the we have a phrase for it, I can't remember now off the top of my head, but we have the one that sort of the middle ground women
Yeah,
who train 2, 3 times a week, enjoy a glass of wine, bit of balance, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
we have the real dedicated crowd. So, but we cover all aspects of exercise. So 1 month we might talk about strength training and yoga, and then the
Mhm.
next month we'll do a running fitness challenge, which we did recently with Tashi Skirvin. Oh, there's a trainer, I can't remember her surname now, but we do fitness challenges, which we'll put the instructions in print, but we'll put videos on our YouTube channel. So we'll be saying there's a 28 fitness challenge that you can follow. So we have another one coming out the end of December.
Mhm.
29th of December we go on sale, and that tends to be our biggest selling issue of the year because everyone's a bit like, oh, panicking after Christmas, you know, too many quality
Yeah,
streets.
yeah.
So we're doing a fitness challenge, and it's called a total body reboot, and their food and the reps and everything they need to do is in print, but they can do the workouts online as well. So we're
Oh,
a very 360 brand
yeah,
that has
yeah.
content on our podcast, on YouTube, on the social channels, on the website, but also in print.
Wow, so you're doing quite a lot. So how have you seen media kind of change and become more digitalized in your kind of whole career?
So it's fast forwarded, in my opinion, 3 to 5 years in the last 6 months
Yeah.
in terms of the move to digital.
Yeah.
So there's definitely been this evolve to digital.
Yeah.
I should say that women's health is in a good state on the newsstand
Okay.
because it's a specialist brand and it's health, and people trust what they read in print more than they do digitally. There's research into this that people trust print 70% more than anything they read on digital because they feel it's gone through editorial scrutiny,
Yeah.
etc. That said, during this last, well, how long have we been in lockdown? So let's say 6 months, it's a bit longer. We've seen our digital numbers go through the roof.
Okay.
It went bananas in the beginning. We went into lockdown. For
Yeah.
home fitness content went absolutely bananas. Women were searching for it, and we're not seeing those numbers subside. So there's definitely been a movement away from print to digital, and some brands have been hit worse than others.
Yeah.
But fortunately, touch wood, women's health has held its own. The issue that's on sale at the moment, which has Oti Mabuse on the cover, is selling
Really?
extraordinarily well. I can't. It's up year on year, double figures.
Oh
So
wow.
if you think the achievement that is selling more than double figures than the same issue last year, when you take into account the current climate, that's an achievement.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
um,
was there a bit of panic, or was you guys already kind of set for kind of this digital age?
we were a merged brand anyway. So we all the team worked across print and digital, but we definitely had writers, content creators who were print natives
Okay.
who created a bit of content for digital, and then we had the digital writers who created a bit for print. But what I did in the beginning of lockdown, when I could see the digital numbers going through the roof, is that I simplified the print content considerably, because in the beginning no one was buying the magazines because you physically couldn't go out. Remember the
Yeah.
first lockdown? Like, it was much stricter than the one that
Yeah.
we're sort of ignoring at the moment. Not me personally, but if you
Yeah.
go out, it doesn't look like we're in lockdown. The roads are quite busy, aren't they? But in the
Yeah.
beginning, no one could go out at all.
Yeah.
So I moved all the print writers off onto digital, and I'm so proud of how they pivoted overnight. And bear in mind, we were all working remotely as
Yeah.
well. You know, none
Yeah.
of us had done that before. And with the skills that they managed to pick up almost overnight to create digital content was really impressive. And I
Yeah.
actually want to count myself in that as well. I'm quite proud how much I now know about digital content and analytics and all this. And this is
Yeah.
stuff that, even though I manage the digital team,
Hmm.
they were still very much had the autonomy to put the nuts and bolts of the digital content together. And I was their manager from a very sort of
Yeah.
top level, but I've had to get my hands dirty and get involved. So I feel that it's enriched my skill set and benefited me also.
Yeah. I actually know one of your digital editors,
Oh
Amy.
yeah.
I went to college with Amy in Cirencester.
Ah, so
Yeah.
she's had a baby now.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so she lives up the road from me in Winchester. Funnily enough, she
Oh
moved
wow.
down
Okay.
here to have her little baby. So yes, he's a month old, so he's a
Oh,
very little.
oh, that's nice. So you see, you said how women's health kind of dealt with the pandemic, but how did you personally kind of deal with being locked down?
So the very beginning of lockdown, I will say, was one of the hardest periods of my life, and the reason for that is I do have two young children.
Hmm.
My son was 7 at the time, and my daughter was 4, and I was home with them. My husband's a key worker, so he was still in London working,
Oh wow.
and I had to try the whole homeschooling thing while running Women's Health, and it was so incredibly hard, and it was not fair on me and it was not fair on them.
Yeah.
Um, I just tried my best. In the midst of all of it, we did Women's Health Live virtual. So some of you may know that we were due to run a big actual event
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
May in London,
Yeah.
8,000 women over 3 days. I had people flying in from Australia for it, LA, with Kayla Racines coming from Australia, Julia Michaels coming from LA. We had loads of celebrities, and we had to cancel it. So what I just decided to do was run a version of it digitally, and
Yeah.
we hosted it across our social channels. It
Okay.
was an extraordinary success. It had over 10 million video views, believe it or not, because we ran it at the time when everyone was not leaving their houses. But I had to manage that whole event, plus host many of the interviews, including interviewing Gillian Michaels live from LA.
Yeah.
And I had COVID myself at the
Oh,
time.
wow.
Yeah, I
Oh,
did. And I
severe.
severe I just certainly not as severe as some people have had it. It lasted for about a month, and
Okay.
it's a very strange illness to have, in that it goes in peaks and troughs. So
Okay.
you think you're getting better, and then you'll go downhill again the next day. So I but the coughs and the
Yeah.
tightness of breath and the feeling of not being able to take a deep breath
Yeah.
actually only lasted about 3 and 4 days.
Okay.
The other symptoms of it were in really, really intense headaches, the type of headaches that are you struggle to go about your day to day.
Okay.
Dizziness. So if you moved quickly, the dizziness would intensify, and also brain fog.
Okay.
It was like I couldn't think straight. I couldn't get my words out, but it lasted about a month, and
Wow.
my face swelled up, believe it or not, and I lost my sense of taste and
Yeah.
smell.
Yeah.
So I had the tick list. If
Oh,
there
wow.
was a tick the list, I had
Yeah.
it. But it lasted about a month. But I've
Yeah.
got friends who had it at the same time who are still very ill now. They have
Was
the
it?
long COVID.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, yeah.
So you mentioned that you kind of, I mean, it's great that you've kind of come out the other end of it as well.
Oh,
You mentioned that you was at home kind of with the children and stuff like that. So was
yeah.
you still able to kind of work out as well?
Yeah, well, I was ill for some of it as well. Me and
Mm.
the kids were doing PE with Joe, nine
Okay.
o'clock every day with Joe
Yeah.
Ricks. And then what I was doing was, when he was doing the rest periods every 30 seconds, I wasn't giving myself a rest. I was just doing it, for 20
Okay.
minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was using weights to make the movements harder.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was going into, when I felt better, I was lucky enough to have kettlebells and stuff at home, but God, I could have sold them and made a fortune, because
Yeah.
everyone was they were so
Everything
hard to
was
get
sold
hold
out.
So I was just following YouTube kettlebell workouts and stuff that I found, and I really found it quite liberating. And we had lovely weather, if you remember, as well.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I was in the garden a lot, just doing workouts. And then I was very lucky to get a Peloton bike in June, and that just transformed my life. That sounds sounds very grand to say, but
Yeah.
I just love it. I
Yeah.
love doing the Peloton app as well. I do the strength classes on there, and then recently I've got more home dumbbells, so I'm pretty set up at home now.
Yeah. But I mean, where do you find the time? You're running a magazine. You've got two
Yeah,
kids,
yeah,
both young.
yeah.
Yeah. How do you find the time to juggle all three?
Well, I have to prioritize working out for my mental health, and
Mhm.
working out makes me a better person all round. So a better manager, a better mother, a better wife, a better colleague, a better everything. So I have to prioritize working out.
Yeah.
So my routine, now that the kids are back in school, when the kids weren't in school, I
Yeah.
just started to try and fit it in when I can, and I was guilty of putting the kids in front of the TV so I could do
Yeah.
it. I did,
I've
because
done that a lot as well. Paw Patrol was like
yeah,
back to back sometimes.
exactly. Yeah. So I just had to do it, and now the kids are in school. Touch wood, hope they stay there. So now, as soon as I get back from school drop off, which is 8:45, I'll do a session. So I
Mhm.
tend to do weights, because I am following a program now that's been written by
Okay.
Alice Living, who I would normally train with if I was in London.
Yeah.
And then at lunchtime or towards the end of the day, I'll do half an hour cardio. So on the bike, or I'll look for a workout and do a HIIT workout or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. So
Because
do you have to schedule it in like before the week starts so you
yeah,
know, right, this hour I'm doing this or
yeah.
whatever?
So I block it out in my diary, because, as
Okay.
you can imagine, my diary is nuts busy, and people
Yeah.
just you know, people can see when I'm available, and because I manage so many departments, plus I oversee events, and I work with commercial on pitching to agencies and stuff. So, and all these different buckets across Hurst need my input, so, and they can see my diary. So there are days when I literally I've got meetings from 10 till 6. So what I do is I make sure my diary is blocked out from 9 till 10, so to allow me to exercise. And the same, I'll block out a lunchtime at least 3-4 times a week to do something, whether that's an intense HIIT workout, or I just get on my road bike and go out, because otherwise I'm stuck in my house. So we're working from home indefinitely, you know, sitting in the spare bedroom. It's a bit of a bleak existence, isn't it? You know, it's I don't see anyone apart from my kids some days, which is, you know, it can be depressing in itself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously not speaking on behalf of mothers, as I'm not one myself, but something I do realize is that you kind of put your family before yourself.
Yeah.
So, you know, rather than thinking like you do, that for your mental health, fitness is really important. So you need to do that so that you're a better wife, a better mother for your family. Whereas a lot of mums tend to make sure the family's good first. And then if they have some time at the end, then they might just do a little workout if they can fit it in. And more time than not, they don't actually get around to doing it. So it's really good what you said about, you know, blocking it out, and, you know, how important is it to you to kind of prioritize that you do have some time to yourself?
It's hugely important, and what you're saying is absolutely right, that as women we tend to put everyone before ourselves. The weekly shop, the cleaning, the dinner, the kids, the school uniform, the getting the school bags ready. We come so far down the pecking order. But I firmly believe that if we preserve our own armour, then we are ready to go out and battle and get life done. And we are stronger and in a better position to be a good mum, a good wife, a good manager, a good colleague, whatever you want to be. And I believe that women, if you put yourselves first and put your own well-being first, and so eating well and moving more, it will have a positive effect on all aspects of your life. And also there's been some research by This Girl Can, which is the amazing campaign by Sport England. And it says that children brought up in homes where they see their mum exercising are much more likely to exercise themselves and continue to exercise into adulthood. So in an age where, you know, there's childhood obesity is endemic, sports fields are being sold off, children are sitting in front of laptops and computer games, you know, I think we have a duty as mums to show an example to our children, you know, and I do with my two, you know, they did PE with Joe with me during lockdown, and even now Nell says to me, my daughter, she's 5, come on mummy, let's do 10 squats. And then we you know, her form needs some work, but but yeah, and I you know, and I'm really, really proud that she sees me lifting weights, and she's really interested and fascinated by it, and I hope that she grows up to be like I was, and love sport and loved being active.
So when did your relationship with weights start? Because, you know, there's like a general misconception that, you know, if women lift weights, then they're gonna, you know, automatically become muscly and bulky or whatever.
Yeah.
Was you always aware that that wasn't the case, or was that something you had to kind of learn?
I had to learn that, if I'm honest. So I would do weights in classes, you know. So I'd always done things like circuit training and Les Mills and all those type of classes, power body pump and stuff like that. You know, but I was the person that would not particularly pick up heavy weights. So I did rowing at university, and I was pretty good at it. And we used to lift weights then, but even then, this was such a long time ago. There wasn't the information and the instruction for women to weight train as effectively as there is now. But I properly started weight training when I joined Women's Health, because And
How
then
long ago was that now? How long have you
it'll
been there?
be 4 years in January.
Okay.
So it's yeah, quite a long time. So it's yeah, I met Alice Living, who is still my trainer to this day,
Yeah.
and she's a huge proponent for weight training, and ever since then I've lifted weights. There's a lot of noise, I think, in wellness about how if you do cardio, it can affect your gains. You know, your if you're it can if you want to build muscle, you shouldn't do too much
Yeah.
cardio. But
Yeah.
I respectfully disagree with that because for me,
Respectfully, yeah.
for me,
Yeah.
being fit is being all round fit, and I
Yes.
don't want to be really strong if I can't run
Yeah.
or I can't, if my cardiovascular fitness is shocking. So I want to be all round fit, and if that means I'm not going to have amazing, shapely glutes because I've compromised some of my gains
Mhm.
by doing cardio, then so be it. Because I want to consider myself someone who's all round healthy and have a very balanced relationship with fitness, and
Yeah.
I don't want to get too far down that route of lifting super heavy weights if it compromises other aspects of what I want to get done.
Yeah. I asked the rest of the Sweat Club for some questions, and I got one. What is your favorite and least favorite exercise? And that was from Carla.
So my favorite is anything. I've got really strong legs, so my favorite is any sort of deadlifts and squats and stuff like that. In terms
Yeah.
of strength training, I'm talking about. My least favorite by a country mile, and I don't know what it is. If you're in a plank position and then you do
Yeah.
a row, what's that called? When you do a single arm row in a plank position?
Well, like a renegade row.
Yeah, God, I hate them. I can't. I can't. I absolutely hate them. It's my least favorite strength training move of all time. And then if I was to say my overall favorite sort of fitness is spinning, is on a bike.
Okay.
I love.
I don't like spinning. For some
Yeah,
reason, I find it boring.
yeah. It depends. I hate the classes where they're dancing.
Uh,
Dip your shoulder, dip your shoulder. I can't stick any of that. So I just want to be beasted. I want to be on a bike and
yeah.
just shouted at. And then I also love rowing. I used to row
Yeah. No,
competitively,
I
and
do
I'm
like rowing.
still very, very, well, sound arrogant. I'm very good, but I'm very conditioned to row, whereas a lot of people struggle with it. I
Yeah.
can
No.
I can sit on a rower for half an hour and
Yeah.
do an
No.
endurance row and just love it.
Yeah.
So
All the cardio equipment, I would definitely pick rower first,
yeah,
just because it
yeah,
kind of gets the whole upper and lower body as well.
yeah, yeah,
I really do enjoy that one.
yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you, what can we kind of look forward to in your kind of upcoming publications from Women's Health?
So we are launching a campaign in December called the Loneliness Remedy, and it is a service-driven, multi-platform campaign to combat loneliness. So we've done some research, and women have been disproportionately affected by COVID in terms of job losses, furlough schemes, and also the weight of childcare has unfairly fallen on them. Um, so women have been struggling, and a very high number are now reporting on being lonely, and it's affecting their mental health. So we are working with a university who's created a research paper about how many social interactions you should have a day to ward off loneliness. So we are launching a campaign, as it'll be launched digitally in December, so on the website and on social and on the
Mm.
podcast, and then it will be in print in the new year. So it'll be a 6-month campaign. We're working with world-leading experts and doctors and behavioural experts, and hopefully it will help women feel less lonely and feel less isolated, and feel that they're not alone. We also have a campaign ongoing at the moment called Project Body Love. This is the
Okay.
campaign that's been running for 2 years, and it's to encourage women to embrace their healthy bodies. So there's a lot of service-driven content in that, both and we all know, and we've done research on this as well, that actually women's relationship with their bodies, it's all in their head. The
Mhm.
negative talk and
Yeah.
we're so hard on ourselves that we say things to ourselves that we would never say to someone else. I would never look at someone else and say, God, look at the size of your thighs, but I do to myself. So there's a lot of work going on for that at the moment. Our podcast is going great guns. It's hugely successful. It's called Going for Goal. I would urge everyone to download it and have a listen. The current issue episode is me interviewing Alice Living, actually, about strength training. And we've had great guests on there like Davina McCall, Gemma Atkinson, and then it's every 4 weeks is a celebrity interview, which I do, and then the other 3 episodes is a weekly, is service-driven content such as skincare in your 20s, 30s, 40s and beyond, or like how to build boundaries in this chaotic world or something. But again, like all content in women's health, it's science-based, academic backed, and very credible. We speak to top experts, and it's because of the power of the brand that whenever we ask an expert to speak to us, so they could be in Harvard, or they could be in Oxford University, or they could be a top doctor in the UK, they generally say yes, which is a privilege and a joy, and I hope that we do them justice.
Oh, that sounds really good. Right, so I don't want to keep you too long. I know you've got packing. So I'm just going to open up the floor a little bit, just for a few questions. If anyone in the room has a few questions they want to ask Claire, just comment down below. We'll just go through a few quickly before Claire runs off to continue packing. So yeah, has anyone got any questions? Did I miss any earlier? Feel free to just comment below. No, I haven't seen any. Don't be shy, guys.
So how are you finding lockdown, Erin?
I'm a bit of a homebody, so I found it quite easy, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part was in the early stages where the nursery was closed and my daughter was at home. So you had me doing video sessions in one room. My wife was doing like conference calls and stuff in the other room, and then my daughter's kind of in the middle trying to look for attention. So like you said, we kind of had the TV on, Paw Patrol was just going back to back as she was kind of watching that. So I kind of felt unfair for her. But then, once the nurseries opened again, then, she was able to go in. But for me personally, I still managed to continue working, doing one-to-one sessions via video. I started doing live workouts pretty early, so that kind of kept me motivated and kept me working out as well, which I felt was important. Even if I only had like 2 or 3 people doing the IG lives with me, I just felt it was important to kind of continually do something. And now that we've started Sweat Club, which started last week, which is like an 8-week program. So myself, we have 4 other coaches. We're putting on a total of like 96 live workouts.
Wow.
We're also doing like a newsletter, and we're going to do these weekly talks. So next week we have Anisha, who's an osteopath.
Okay.
So we're going to speak with her next week. So idea is that every week we kind of speak to someone different, and it's all kind of around health and well-being. So that kind of kept me motivated and kept me focused on something. Got a question here for you. Do you work with schools at all? Thinking about how we can encourage fitness as a lifestyle from a young age.
I would love to work with schools, and I've tried. The problem with schools is they're very, very hard to work with because there is so much red tape to get through. So I had an idea for a campaign that I wanted to do this year, actually, when it was due to be the Olympic year, and to use former Olympians and take them into schools to create workouts for teenage girls, because the average age for dropout of sport for teenage girls is 14.
Okay.
And that is for a number of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
It's to do with body image.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
to do with not wanting to stand out and be seen as competitive, because being seen as competitive is not a cool thing.
yeah.
It's peer pressure. There's so many reasons. So I wanted to take former Olympians into schools and do workouts for teenage girls, and it was just borderline impossible. It was a
Well,
real struggle to get the go ahead from the Department of Education and from schools to do so. So I would love to work with schools, but I know from other brands' experience, Cosmo have done some work on sex education with schools, and Men's Health did a project with mental health in young boys, teenagers, but they did them with individual schools, and I know they had a real hardship then, and I wanted to go big. I wanted
yeah, yeah.
to do a bit of a roadshow. So I still have the ambition and the want to do so, but it's much trickier than you could ever imagine.
And that's a shame to hear that.
Yeah, yeah, it is a shame
Really
because,
important to start from early.
yeah, and we want these teenage girls to think staying fit and active and healthy is cool, because then they will take it through with them to university and beyond. Like something needs to be done to stop the mass dropout rate when girls are 14. So, and I played netball in school, but I remember being mortified being made to run round in big red knickers, when I had curves before any of my friends. So
Yeah, yeah.
and then the communal showers, girls are embarrassed by their changing bodies at that time. And there's so many aspects that schools and the education system need to look at to address the dropout, because if they start taking precautions when the girls are teenagers, they will ward off the expenditure they will have to spend on them if these girls become unhealthy because they
Yeah.
develop obesity or any other illnesses associated with their health.
Well, keep persevering.
Thank you.
Another question. Any advice you'd offer to your younger 21-year-old self?
I would say to my younger 21-year-old self, just chill out, because it is all going to be okay. I think I come from a very humble background in the South Wales valleys, and I was always trying to aim high and putting an awful lot of pressure on myself, which ultimately ended up affecting my mental health. So I think if I could look back at my 21-year-old self, I would say, you don't have to push yourself as hard as you're going to. You don't have to do the things that you feel compromise your ethics and compromise your personal safety. You don't have to say yes to everything, because have confidence in your ability and have confidence in your skill and your intelligence, that you can make it anyway without having to ultimately make yourself ill with working so hard.
Yeah. Okay, we've got one more. What tips would you give to set boundaries around working from home and allow time for well-being?
It's I need the tips myself, to be honest. We are doing a feature on this in the next issue of Women's Health, because it is a topic that I would like to know the answer to. My tips would be, what I've done for myself now is when I first started working from home, I was working in the kitchen, and I found that I was getting so distracted by the fridge and just life. So what I started doing was go into the spare bedroom. I'm lucky enough to have a spare bedroom. I know not everyone has that. And now I very much treat that as my office.
Okay.
So what I try to do is not bring work downstairs. So I try not to look at emails when I'm not in the spare bedroom. So I've created a boundary, a physical boundary between what is my office and the rest of my house. A tip that Amy, who Amy Lane, Wellness Ed, says, is that she creates a commute into her day. So this only really works if you don't have children, by the way. I couldn't do this. But at the end of her working day, at the time when she would normally be commuting, she goes out for a walk and she leaves her house. So she's put in that stop to the end of her working day. So when she comes back in, she tries to come back into her house in a different mindset.
Yeah, that
And
makes sense.
then my final one would be, if you can, and I realize not everyone can control their own work diaries, but I book in my diary workouts like I book in a meeting. Like, it is in my diary, and I'm doing it, and no one is going to stop me from doing it once it's in my diary. So, and I'm also holding myself accountable as well. The fact that it's in my diary in black and white, train, so then I do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Well, Claire, thank you so much for this chat. Really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you taking the time out on your Sunday evening from packing, moving house tomorrow to come and chat with us.
Oh,
Really appreciate it. And yeah, no, that was really great. I'm hope that our club members learnt something, and those of them who hasn't read Women's Health yet, go and get themselves a copy.
please do.
Especially the one coming out in December as well. That's
Yeah,
really interesting.
yeah.
Mm.
Okay.
So
Thank you
yeah,
so much for asking me.
no
It's
worries.
been a joy. Thank you.
You take care, Claire. Thank you. Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye.
Well, guys, that was good. That was our first episode of our first edition of the Sweat Talk series, our first chat, and that was Claire Sanderson, the editor in chief of Women's Health. So next week we have award-winning osteopath Anisha Joshi. She's going to talk about the importance of movement and your posture and things like that. So that's going to be another good chat for us next week. So for the rest of you Sweat Clubbers, I'm going to post our weekly schedule after this chat.